Hello, this is Leanne with Learn English with Be Global, and today we're going to be learning about city and town vocabulary and how to ask for directions. So let's go ahead and jump in. So, as I mentioned before, we will be looking into city and town vocabulary and how to ask for directions. First of all, I would like to go over the difference between city and town. The words city and town describe pretty much the same thing. A city could be a capital city. Tokyo, for example, is the capital city of Japan. Cities are usually bigger than towns. You wouldn't call Tokyo a town. It's definitely a city. Let's start off by talking about getting around in the city. One great reason to learn English is that all around the world, everyone is learning English and using English to navigate in foreign cities. So if you know a little bit of English, chances are you'll be able to communicate with the tourist office. The tourist office is the place where you can go to get information. As someone visiting a city, you are a tourist. What that means is that you are exploring the city as someone would who isn't from there. You would want to see maybe some historical landmarks or other points of interest in the city. And in order to see these sites, it's a very good idea to go to the tourist office and ask for a map. Here you can see an example of a map. This map is of the New York City subway. As you can see, it is pretty complex, but it shows you an example of a map. Let's go over some important vocabulary. Some words that you definitely want to know in order to be able to navigate or get around or find your way in a new city are listed below. These words are street and road. The definition of a street, as you can see here, is that a street is a strip of land smoothed or otherwise prepared to allow easier travel along its length. A road is almost the same thing as a street, but it is often bigger than a street. A dirt road is a road that is smoothed but not covered with any material other than dirt or earth. A paved road is a road that is smoothed and then covered with a material such as asphalt. Here are some examples of different types of roads. There is the dirt road that we talked about before. As you can see, the dirt road doesn't have any kind of material on it except for dirt. The paved road on the right-hand side actually has asphalt covering it. Asphalt is the gray material you see that the road is made out of. Another important vocabulary word is the stoplight or traffic light. stoplights are extremely important. As a pedestrian or someone who is walking, you also have to pay attention to the stoplight. As you probably already know, if the stoplight is red, that means you must stop. If the stoplight is green, that means you can go. The reason why this vocabulary is so important for the current lesson is that people will often give you directions based off of stoplights. They might say, go 3 blocks to the left, then take a right at the next stoplight. So it's important for you to know what these words mean. Let's look at the definition for stoplight and pedestrian. So here we can see some of the important vocabulary defined. The stoplight is the light that tells you when to stop or go. And the other word I mentioned was pedestrian. The definition for pedestrian is someone who is traveling by foot. Let's go over some more important vocabulary. One vocabulary term that is very common is the word block. Here, I've outlined in red a block. The definition of block is the area defined by 4 streets. Another definition could be the area contained by 4 streets. For example, if you were right here and someone told you to walk 1 block to the south, assuming that this way is south, you would go from here to there. That would be considered to be 1 block. Let's go over more vocabulary, and after that, we'll practice following directions. The next word I would like to introduce you to is intersection. The definition of intersection is where 2 or more streets overlap, or meet, or intersect. You can see on the map here, I've drawn a circle around an intersection. This point here is an intersection because that is where 2 or more streets overlap. This is very important because if someone is giving you directions, they might say, go to the intersection of Federal Boulevard and West 28th Avenue. Now, it's a bit hard to see in this picture of a map that I have here, but this right here is Federal Boulevard. This right here is West 28th Avenue. So if someone said, go to the intersection of Federal Boulevard and West 28th Avenue, where would you go? That's right, you would go right here. This is the intersection. Let's go over our directions really quickly here. You are probably already familiar with these terms to some extent, but let's just go over them quickly to make sure that we're all on the same page. If someone tells you to turn left, you're going to be going this direction. On the other hand, if someone tells you to turn right, you're going to be going this direction. When you turn, it means to change directions. Okay, let's say that you are on East 8th Avenue and Lafayette Street, and you have decided that you want to go see the Denver Botanic Gardens. So we're going to figure out how to get to the Denver Botanic Gardens. You have a map, and you can look at the map, but you've also asked a friendly person who you met on the street how to get to the Denver Botanic Gardens. What they said to do was to go 11 blocks to the east and almost an entire block north, and then you'll be there. So they said the easiest way is to walk 11 blocks to the right and then take a left and walk about another block. Let's see what this looks like on the map. So, I know I promised that we would look at a map. First, really quickly, I would like to go over some very important vocabulary that will help us learn how to use the map even better. Some important map vocabulary includes the word key. The definition for key is that the key defines the symbols used on a map. When we decided that we wanted to go to the Botanic Garden, we knew that we would need to find the Denver Botanic Garden on the key. Another important word is highway. The definition for highway is a large, busy road that often connects cities. A highway is different from a road because it's usually much busier than a road, and people often use highways as landmarks. Landmarks are things that pretty much everyone in the city knows, and they're usually big and easy to see. It's easy to find them. Another important vocabulary word is the word sights. The definition for sights is things to look at in a city. In a minute here, when we look at the map, we're going to see many examples of sights to see in the city. So here is the key. Remember, the key tells us what all of the symbols on the map mean. In this case, the symbols are actually letters. So let's find the Denver Botanic Gardens. Do you see it? Oh yeah, it's right here. The key tells us that the Denver Botanic Gardens is going to be found with the letter Z. And there it is on the map. So right now, you are on East Avenue and Lafayette Street. You are at the intersection of East Avenue and Lafayette Street, which is right here. And you want to get to Z, the Denver Botanic Gardens, right over here. Here are the directions. You are facing north. From Lafayette, go right on East 8th Avenue for 11 blocks. Okay, so we're facing north, this direction. Turn right, okay, we're going to go this way, for 11 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 blocks. And then turn left and walk almost a full block, and you will be there. Okay, remember we're going this direction, so left is going to be that way. We walk almost a full block, and here we are at Z. Now, at this point, you're probably wondering, how do I get a stranger to give me directions in English? I'm going to give you some polite phrases that you can use to get someone's attention and ask for directions. Stay tuned. So now that we understand all this map vocabulary, let's think about how we would approach an actual stranger in a strange city in English to get their attention and ask for their help. One thing that's important to remember is to be friendly. Smile, say hello. This is going to help the stranger trust you and view you as a friendly tourist. So here I've listed out a couple really good ways, well, more than a couple, quite a few good ways to get someone's attention if you need help with directions. So, of course, you can say, hello, like that. If you make the end of your voice go up a bit, sometimes that will help get the person's attention. You can also say, excuse me, or good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on the time of day, of course. You wouldn't want to say good evening in the morning because that just wouldn't make sense. You would want to say good evening at night. You could also say, excuse me, do you have a minute? You could say, excuse me, can you help me? Or, hello, I think I'm a bit lost. Can you help me? These are all great ways to get someone's attention in a very polite way. You can then say something that will indicate that you need help. Some suggestions I have are, you could say, may I? For example, say, may I ask, how do you get to Hamilton Pool from here? You could also say, could you please help me find? As an example, you could say, could you please help me find the oldest tree in the city? Another way to ask for help could be, I would like to go to the art museum. Can you help me? It's always good to be polite and say, please. Other useful words are how, where, and which. An example of how you could use how is, how can I get to Times Square? You could use where. Where is the closest restaurant? Or you could use which. Which bus should I take to go downtown? All of these examples are polite, especially if you say thank you after the person helps you. Here are some great ways to say thank you when someone has helped you. You could say simply thank you, or you could say, thank you so much for your help. A big smile can help here. You could also say, I really appreciate the fact that you took the time to help me. That lets the stranger know that it meant a lot to you to have their help. Another phrase is, I'm very grateful for your help. You could also say, thanks, you are so kind. Now I'd like to go over a couple types of city transportation. A lot of the time when you're in a new city, you will be probably going by foot or walking around the city as a pedestrian. However, There will be times, certainly, when it makes more sense to use a mode of transportation other than just walking. One very common type of city transportation is the bus. Here you can see a picture of a bus in, I believe, New York City. And for bus fares, you often do have to have the correct amount of change. So do be careful to have cash if you decide to ride a bus in most cities. This is an example of a streetcar. The difference between a streetcar and a bus, as you can see, is that the streetcar actually runs on tracks. These metal things right here are the tracks. And a streetcar has a wire up here where it gets its electricity from. So when you're walking around in a city, you want to be careful not to spend too much time stopped on the streetcar tracks. However, streetcars are a great way to get around in the city. Another option is to use the subway. The subway is usually mostly underground, hence its name, sub, and it looks like a big train, and it's normally very fast. Earlier in the lesson, we looked at a subway map for New York City. In the subway, it can often be very confusing as to which subway to take. So when you're in the subway trying to decide which line to take, you can use the vocabulary that we went over to ask a stranger for help. This is a taxi. The way to catch a taxi is very different in different cities. However, most of the time, if you yell taxi and wave your arm around, you can probably get a taxi to stop for you. Taxis usually have a meter, so it's usually best to make sure that the meter is on and at 0 when you first get into the taxi. This is an example of a shuttle. This, in fact, is an airport shuttle, which can be extremely convenient. If you're staying at a hotel in the city, oftentimes the hotel will have an airport shuttle. It's a good idea to ask at the front desk if they have an airport shuttle, because it's usually a free ride to the airport from your hotel and actually from the airport to your hotel. So you can go to and from the airport using the airport shuttle. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below.